Salutations from space and aloha from Earth. This is Gemini Brett of More Than Astrology with astrological insights for the Root Chakra clearing month of Venus's descent into the underworld, the great descent of Inanna through the seventh gate. Today is Friday, Viernes, Venus's Day, March 4th, 2016. It's 8:32:11 a.m. and I'm recording from home in Seattle, Washington, with the Capricorn moon conjunct Pluto, the hidden one. The beautiful moon, the crescent moon, woke me up this morning and guided me outside so I could see Venus in the morning. And we're really in kind of the final month of being able to see Venus as morning star, for she is descending into the underworld. When she gets within 10 degrees of the sun, she'll be gone for about 60 days before she is reborn in the morning sky. Jeez. I'm just going to start that over from right here. Today is Friday, Viernes, Venus's Day, March 4th, 2016. I'm recording from home in Seattle, Washington at 8:32:11 a.m. with the beautiful crescent moon conjuncting Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. The crescent moon woke me up this morning and it was something to see. The clouds had cleared and it guided me outside to witness Venus as morning star. We're kind of in the final month of being able to see Venus in the morning, for she is descending into the underworld. When she gets within 10 degrees of the sun, she will disappear from our view. And she'll be gone for about 60 days when Venus and when we on our quest will go through the months of death and rebirth in this cycle. So by that point we'll have cleansed all of the clutter of the energetic systems of the chakras, and we'll have a full release, and then it's time to come back up. So Venus later this year will show herself again, but in the western sky as evening star. And every time the moon embraces her there, that signals the ascent from the root to the crown and beyond. But this is the way down. So we are drinking today a purple earth shung pu'er tea, or raw pu'er tea. And what's with the purple and the blue shirt when we're talking about root chakra red, right? Well, let's honor that it's been quite a quest this far, from the crown down. And that's all part of it, right? So I'll say a couple of things. One, for me, Saturn shows the energy of the root chakra. Venus today is in a pretty strong sextile to Saturn. Saturn's in Sagittarius, traditionally ruled by Jupiter. I'm recording a little bit ahead of schedule. The actual gate of descent into the seventh, into the root chakra, will come when moon embraces Venus in the morning sky. And the exact alignment is about 12:35 a.m. on Monday, the day of the moon, March 7th. Of course, we wouldn't see this at that time on the west coast. It's down below the horizon. So if I bring this about 6 hours up, it's about 6:30 a.m., 6 a.m. when you would see this beautiful alignment of crescent moon embracing Venus as morning star. And I really recommend you get out there to celebrate that, to be in ceremony with this, to experience and embody and really earth this alignment of moon and Venus, this symbol, this signal for us to descend into this month of clearing the root chakra. So let us honor that it has been quite a time. Let us honor the seasons and the signs. What is it that Venus is descending from the sign of Aquarius? Not long after this gate, she will ingress into Pisces, traditionally said to be the sign of her exaltation. And there's going to be some pretty amazing Pisces action to clear the space before she does ingress. So here's the shamanic astrology timeline or schedule of this Venus descent. It began in August in the sign of Leo, and on September 10th she descended through the crown gate and entered that month of clearing the clutter of authority and of our connection to something higher. A month later, about through the brow chakra, and on. Yeah, this month of clearing the sacral chakra, which began on February 5th and is about to finish as Venus descends into the Root Chakra gate on March 7th, has been quite a month for me. I don't know about you. Alright, so we'll honor Venus in the sign, we'll honor the moon as it's moving, we'll honor what Saturn's doing now, because again, for me personally, Saturn is so representative of the energies of Root Chakra. And we'll play some games. So this morning I drew my Root Chakra gate tarot card, and the deck I've been using, as you know if you've been following along, is these Power Animal Oracle cards by Stephen Farmer, which I have on my iPhone. This morning I drew Giraffe. You're able to see what is in store for the future. Pretty interesting, the giraffe, right? This highest vision, perhaps, when we're talking about Root Chakra. But I think when I read this description, it'll bring us into these mysteries some. Stephen Farmer, in his description for this card, says this: "It's so easy to get your nose stuck to the ground and only pay attention to what's right in front of you. This is especially true when the world is making hundreds of demands on you and there's no time to stop and assess where you're going with all this. The delusions of urgency that grip so many humans prevent you from looking ahead, from taking the time to look into the future and consider the consequences of your present actions. Yes, it's good to live in the present, yet at the same time it can be equally important to see what lies ahead and set your sights accordingly. Even though no one can predict the future with any absolute certainty, at this time you can see with great clarity what lies ahead. So pause for a few moments, step back a bit, and look forward. What do you see? What do you want to see? It's only when you stop and look at the horizon beyond what's right in front of you that you can get a glimpse of what's to come. Then you can set your intentions and organize your plans to accordance with what is yet to be." Yeah, some really beautiful words there. And it shows us perhaps that the giraffe digs the art of astrology, right? Being able to know more about the past experiences of our life, being able to really read into the energies of the present, and being able to look ahead to the future so that we can align our intentions to the energies to come and experience their best wishes for us. So looking ahead, again, we'll check out this synodic cycle and this timeline from the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. We're just about to enter what Shamanic Astrology calls the Gate of Life, or the Root Chakra, in the descent, the clearing of the Root Chakra, and that begins on March 7th. There'll actually be one more visible for some moon gate on April 6th, and Shamanic Astrology calls this a death by intent gate, so I'll be speaking about that next month. And for me, it's kind of a review of all that we've cleared. Venus descends into the underworld on April 30th when she pulls within 10 degrees of the sun. Her exact alignment to the sun, which is Venus as far as she can get from the earth in the depths of the underworld, is June 6, 2016. And she first shows herself again as an evening star on July 13th. So we're in this place of descending, of clearing, of releasing. We can see what's ahead. We can see that there will be a reassemblage point. And then, beginning August 3rd, we begin to ascend and reclaim these chakras and clear our throats. So, the giraffe card. I first bought this deck because the art came from a dear friend, Eric Nez. Here's a painting that he created at the Beloved Festival a couple years ago. So much incredible imagery here. You can see Eric at ericnez.com. So let's look ahead and see what Venus does this month, see what Saturn does this month, and let's also honor the moon and play the moon game, because it's quite a month, or a moonth. This is the eclipse month, one of two of this year. We're entering the eclipse cauldron, beginning with a total solar eclipse in the sign of Pisces on March 8th. First quarter will be in Gemini, the full moon, which is a partial lunar eclipse, will be in Libra, and the last quarter will be in Capricorn, pretty close to where the moon is today as I'm recording this. So Pisces, where we'll have this total solar eclipse, traditionally that's Venus' sign of exaltation. And Libra, where the partial lunar eclipse will be, is one of Venus's so-called domiciles, or one of her signs of rulership. So there's a lot of Venus energy here. And this eclipse is so important, so beautiful. Really working with the moon and playing with the moon, living by the moon in these cycles has been so profound for me personally. And this is a cool month in that regard. A new moon to new moon cycle is 29.5 days. Because we had leap year this year and 29 days in February, you'll see that the schedule of this Pisces moon game is pretty close to the degrees and the dates that we saw last month in the Aquarius moon game. So check that out. It was new moon February 8th, first quarter February 15th, full moon February 22nd, last quarter March 1st, and this time around March 8th, March 15th, March 23rd, and March 31st. So it's pretty interesting that we have a last quarter moon of this cycle on March 31st, and the first date of this month, March 1st, in the strange Gregorian calendar was also a last quarter moon. So what does this mean, this moon game? How do we play? For me, it's that we set seeds of intentions at a new moon. And the eclipse is like a super new moon, super intense. It's almost like setting intentions for the whole year. First quarter, the time when those seeds of intentions sprout and some of the tension comes in for the week, you know. So Pisces intentions are set. How does Gemini bring some tension to that? The flowers come with the Libra full moon, and then the wisdom, the fruit in Capricorn with the last quarter. And this Pisces total solar eclipse is quite an eclipse. This is the chart with many of the asteroids and Eris and Pluto here, Chiron shown too, very importantly. So here are some of the glyphs, a decoder ring, if you will. This is the new moon, right? When moon conjuncts sun, and that happens every month, but only a couple times a year will that happen at the lunar nodes. The lunar nodes are where, from Earth's point of view, the path of the moon crosses the path of the sun. So only when we have a new moon here at the descending node, or here at the ascending node, can we visibly see the moon eclipse the sun. We won't see this from Seattle, so I'm heading off to Hawaii to check it out. There won't be a total eclipse there, but a beautiful partial eclipse. I'm not going to talk too much about the eclipse today because I recently posted on YouTube about half an hour about eclipses in general, and specifically tuning into this Pisces eclipse and this Saros cycle, the eclipse family that it belongs to, looking through history. And also recently recorded an interview with one of my teachers, Daniel Jamario, the founder of Shamanic Astrology, about this coming eclipse. He's going to Indonesia where he will see the eclipse in totality. And I'll be in Hawaii on the Big Island. So if any of you live there or are traveling there and know people there, I'll be hosting a free eclipse meditation on the day of the eclipse, which is March 8th, Tuesday. About 4 p.m. till sunset. So if you're around, come on down to Kealakekua Bay. We haven't set exactly the location, but I'm pretty sure we're going to do it at the place of sanctuary. So you can reach out to me at morethan.astrology@gmail.com if you want to learn more about that and come out. It's going to be some incredible musicians, some sacred sound healers, including David Hoover, who's just a master harpist. I'm very excited about that. And I'll be hanging out in Hawaii and doing some talks and doing some healing work, heading out to Maui for the eclipse or for the equinox. and that, but enough about me. So let's really dig into this descending node or south lunar node Pisces eclipse. So a south node eclipse is kind of like this descent. It's about clearing the clutter. It's about the release. What in Pisces needs to be released. In many ways, it's supercharged a total eclipse with the new moon so close to the lunar node like this. It is a super moon, meaning the moon is close to Earth in its orbit, which appears larger and therefore will even better eclipse the sun. It's aligned to Chiron, who is, you know, the shamanic healer in so many ways. The addressing of the soul wounds, the transmutation of the poison to medicine, of the lead to gold. Chiron's been hanging out in Pisces for years now. And when we talk about releasing some of the wounds of Pisces, I mean, we're really talking about religiosity. This eclipse cycle began in the year 1096 with the First Crusades and has carried a lot of religious wars and crusade and conquest when it comes around every 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours, as the eclipse cycles do. You can learn more about that in that eclipse video I posted recently. We're clearing some victimhood and some martyrdom, when we're releasing Pisces. And because we've been in the age of Pisces for 2,000 years, probably 2,016 years, that's probably why this calendar started when it did, we're looking at clearing a lot of the baggage and the events from those times, and also really holding on to their beauty, the spirituality of Pisces, the agape, the universal love. How can we love the world without taking on the suffering for the world as some attempt to heal it? I think this is a really important question. This solar eclipse is also aligned to Ceres, the asteroid goddess. Now she's a dwarf planet. That's like divine mother, goddess of the crops. And when we look to releasing some of her wound and cultivating that poison, transmuting it into medicine, we can really think about the great story of Ceres in Greek. She was Demeter, the mother of Persephone. So if you know that story, the loss of the child to the mother and the pain that she went through, but also her rebirth and the birth of the mysteries of death and rebirth that she and Persephone gave birth to, brought in the Eleutherian rites. This eclipse is opposite Jupiter and Virgo. And to me, this is massively important. Jupiter, who will be on this very day of March 2nd, in his perfect opposition to the sun, so that brings Jupiter closest to the Earth, brightest in our sky. It's the very middle point of his retrograde motion. That means Jupiter will rise when the sun sets. For folks here in the States, or on the continent, like in the West Coast, you won't see this eclipse. It will have set. This is the western horizon, right? So the sun is set by this point before the moon comes in to eclipse it. What you will see, Jupiter really high and bright in the eastern sky. Not so high actually, but east and super bright. You really can't miss him. And Jupiter, of course, is reflecting the light of the sun, and uneclipsed at that. And he's kind of showing us the forward path, Jupiter at the North Node. He's saying, be Virgo, be in ceremony, connect to the land. What is your practice? What is your devotion? What is your yoga? So I really encourage you to go out and sit with Jupiter on Tuesday and just allow yourself to ask Jupiter, who in India they call the guru, to show you a devotional practice, to show you a way to ground and to get into the earth. This is Virgo. And to get into ceremony. And you'll be doing that just being outside and honoring the bright and beautiful light of Jupiter. And getting to the earth, this is kind of a root chakra thing, an earthy thing. And for me, again, Saturn is root chakra, so it's very interesting that Saturn is in such a strong square to this Pisces total solar eclipse. And he makes what's called a T-square to the nodes, to Jupiter on the other side. You can see that shape there. These are 90-degree angles about with Saturn and Jupiter, with node, with Saturn, and all of this Pisces project going down. Well, Saturn and Sagittarius in general, we're talking about the rules of spirituality in many senses. Sagittarius, the great philosopher, the vision quest, asking the unanswerable questions. And when people try to give us an answer to the unanswerable, like what is spirit, well, then we're forced into belief systems. We're not allowed to just seek, which is the truest nature of Sagittarius. So with Saturn being in so many ways, I feel a guide for Venus's descent through the 7th gate, the Root Chakra gate, because Saturn really represents Root Chakra for me. We're also talking about connecting the heavens and the earth, the above and the below. We're honoring this entire descent process, and we're being encouraged to release our belief system so that we can truly seek a higher vision, a higher truth. So in releasing some of the victim and suffering and martyr and this kind of thing, to tuning ourselves into an earthly connection the way that we individually and independently connect to spirit. This is very much a Virgo thing, and especially a Jupiter and Virgo thing. Part of the challenge here to help us release the conflict and find its resolution is releasing ourselves from our belief systems. Whether that is religious rules that we were taught in youth and choose to release now, whether it was the rules of science, that was like the cult that I grew up in that says spirit is nonsense, whatever it means for you. This is part of the project for this total solar eclipse in Pisces, March 8th, Tuesday. Mars' day. Mars, the sacred sword that cuts. And Mars, by this point, will also be in Sagittarius. Pluto has a really interesting alignment to Jupiter here. It's almost a perfect trine. Uranus, an almost perfect trine to Saturn. Uranus hanging out with Eris. And I don't want to get too much into the astrobabble. I mean, it's interesting to me too that when we bring Pallas Athena in, there's this yod with Pallas Athena, Uranus, and Jupiter. It's said to be the finger of God, and it's pointing towards Jupiter. And really, that Pisces solar eclipse, all that Pisces action's right here, so it forms this incredible shape. This, in so many ways, is just saying there's this wisdom of freedom, there's this wisdom of bringing in a new way, Aquarius, that comes through reclaiming our own flame, a revolution of self, Uranus and Aries, and that will help guide us into this independent connection to spirit, to ceremony. And you'll hear some more about that if you watch this interview I'll be posting tomorrow that I recently recorded with Daniel Gemario in our Further Adventures of Shamanic Astrology series. But I don't want to get too deep into the astrology in that regard. I'd rather just speak from my heart. Here are the astrological charts, so if you want to dig into it, you can take a screenshot here. Here's all sorts of points in this Pisces total solar eclipse. Here's the chart for the Gemini first quarter moon. How does Gemini bring some tensions to intentions set in Pisces? Well, Gemini has this great gift of, hey man, it's just a game. We're just here to play. Let's be young. Let's be fun. Let's, really tend to the playful imagination. And that's really can be a treat, but sometimes Pisces will say, hey, this is serious. The world is suffering. We need to feel this. Agape, universal love, is not denying any of that stuff, and not making it so much of a duality experience, and seeing the light as the dark and the dark as the light and all of this. So Gemini teaches that, but sometimes in a way that's a little more playful than the great mystic and bodhisattva and guru Pisces wants to deal with. So we can see how some of the tensions come in. It's almost to me like some of what we set intentions about releasing with this total solar eclipse. We might be challenged in the following week to try to forget about it, to try to just release it by running away from it, which sometimes can be a Gemini thing and a Gemini moon thing. And I feel that I can say that because I've got a Gemini moon. This is my Gemini moon. And actually, it's 1 minute away. this Gemini first quarter, so I guess I'll be experiencing this one pretty strongly. We'll see how that does. I mean, I love that Jupiter is right with my Venus at this time too. So looking forward, here is the, looks like I skipped. I'm out of order. Here's the Libra lunar eclipse, so the Libra full moon. Libra, again, one of Venus's signs. The sun will be in Aries, one of Mars's signs, Mercury right there with Aries. And the moon in these early degrees of Libra, helping those Pisces seeds sprout. You know, did we set seeds of really connecting to universal love, to transcendence, to knowing spirit? How can we bring that into relationship? How does that flower through these Libra principles of partnership and communication and balance and peace? And peace to me is really the theme of these eclipses, of this cycle. You know, my great prayer and the prayer that I'll be holding as mantra during the eclipse and during my meditation is, even in the madness of the world, I am experiencing peace. I am at peace. I am peace. I am peace. I am peace. And may the Libra full moon reflect to the Aries sun that it's time for less war. That's sometimes the greatest way for the warrior to win the fight, is to choose not to fight, to choose peace, to choose balance, to choose this great Pisces principle of agape, of universal love. The last quarter in Capricorn. So we're talking about the wisdom of the elders here, you know, really grounding into the earth. Capricorn traditionally ruled by Saturn, so those themes come in for me again, of Saturn having these associations with Root Chakra. And Capricorn was Venus's last cycle. All right, January 2014 till August 2015 when this current cycle began. And this current cycle shifted, as we know by now, into Leo. So how are we confident creators? How are we artists holding the brush of our manifestations, painting the canvas of our life without hesitation? This is what we are working towards. So what do we have to release to really own that beautiful light of Leo, to allow the sun to shine not only on us but through us? And in this eclipse cauldron, of course, the eclipses bring us into the idea of the shadow and allowing ourselves to descend, allowing ourselves to perhaps even see unseen rules written within that we can release and really realign ourselves, not to some I will take on the suffering of the world to heal them. I feel like that's old Pisces. I feel like that can tend to martyrdom and even victimhood, and that's what we're being asked to release. Just, can I love it all anyway? Can I see the higher beauty in everything, even the crazy destruction, war, whatever? So I love at this Capricorn last quarter moon that Venus will by that point have found herself in this really strong alignment. She's right between Chiron and Ceres, who were major players at the time of the total solar eclipse, March 8th. So in so many ways, the total solar eclipse and this moon game in general are here to kind of clear the space of Pisces so Venus can dive into those waters and really connect to a new Pisces, a new way to be exalted in her sign. And she's here clearing, right? So here's the chart that brings us into the Venus root chakra clearing month. I wrote March 6th on this slide I'm seeing, but it's actually March 7th. It happens just after midnight. And again, it's more hours later when we would actually see her in the sky. Here's the chart with some less points on there. You know, if you're just engaging with the astrological arts, all of these asteroid goddesses and Eris might be more than you want to deal with right now. It's interesting to me that Mars is rising for us here on the West Coast when Moon and Venus conjunct, but really it's hours later when we can see her in the morning sky. Here's a chart for March 7th at 6:30 a.m. I wrote March 6th here, that's incorrect, it's March 7th. Venus and the Moon meeting in the sign of Aquarius, where Venus is now, to bring her into this root chakra descent. And this is a very interesting thing Venus in Aquarius in general. So Venus, in so many ways, as a symbol for the sacred feminine, for the goddess. When we talk about Aquarius themes, I mean, this is freedom. This is a new way. This is a better way. This is really bringing in, I think, from a higher vision into form a revolutionary act that will bring a beautiful and bright new way to the world. And we're talking about, in general, freedom as well. You know, how have we been caged? I think honoring, as I often say, how the cage is actually the greatest teacher of freedom. Once we really see how it is a wonderful teacher, then we basically have learned its lessons and now have earned the right to release ourselves from it. But that doesn't happen, for me personally, just from running away from it, pretending like it's not there. That doesn't work. You know, when I talk about Gemini moon and some avoidance of just like the waves of the heart and the lower chakras going into the air, as Gemini is an air sign, to the up and out, well, Aquarius is that as well, yeah? So, and this is one of the things we hear about Aquarius. It's like, well, running away from the emotional, like that doesn't serve the revolution. We can't get lost in like the clutter of our heart because we're here to really make change. But, you know, the truth is that great change is led by the wisdom of our heart. These days, modern astrology associates Aquarius with the planet Uranus, but before planet Uranus was discovered, Aquarius was ruled by Saturn. Now, Saturn traditionally ruled Capricorn, his nocturnal, his feminine, his yin, his sign, his earth sign, yeah, the chalice, the downward, down and in, to the body, into the senses. And then Saturn ruled Aquarius, the up and out, the blade, the masculine, the yang. And I really find that, as you've probably heard me say in puerty, these ancient, basically tree-sized plants that are so rooted, so Capricorn, drinking from the waters of the earth, but the branches just really growing into the heavens. So here's a cup for you. Get me back on track. And a cup for me. This is the cup for my feminine half. All right, so let's check out Venus in this cycle. So she's descending into the root chakra. Pretty cool that she's doing this Aquarius thing because it's related to Saturn. Saturn traditionally has these Aquarius roots. You know, Capricorn may be the roots, and again, Aquarius, the branches reaching for the heavens, the freedom, bringing back from the heavens a new way, this great revolutionary agent of change. Venus wants to let her freak flag fly. She wants to be different. She wants to be revolutionary. She wants to be free. And she's actually, in a way, at least by whole sign, the old astrology, she's enjoying a sextile alignment to Saturn. It's very supportive. You know, he's saying if you can rewrite the rules of your belief systems, if you can truly seek a higher way, then you will bring that higher vision back to really bring dynamic change to the world. Mercury, consciousness, will have ingressed Pisces by this point. He's just in the end of Aquarius today as I'm recording this. He's heading into our consciousness, right? Moving into this place of universal love. And he's bringing our consciousness to the Pisces principles. To the principles of transcendence, to the principles of belief. I love my water bottle, just burped as I said this. The water wants to speak through Pisces. Pisces is the spirit of the water itself, the all waters. Mercury's coming to find his way to Neptune, perhaps the preferred professor of Pisces school at our time. Traditionally, Pisces was ruled by Jupiter, and nowadays by Neptune. But in the traditional system, it's really interesting that Mercury's in one of Jupiter's signs, Pisces, and Jupiter's in one of Mercury's signs, Virgo. So as Mercury ingresses Pisces, he enters by whole sign astrology, mutual reception with Jupiter. They're living in each other's houses. They have a lot to communicate about that. And Mercury will later this month make an exact opposition to Jupiter. And Venus will come in there too, because Venus will be ingressing Pisces in just about a week from now. So let's check that out. I'm going to move through the days. So we start here in the morning. Venus's morning star conjunct that moon, the symbol for entering into the seventh gate, the clearing of the root chakra as Venus descends towards the sun to enter the underworld, this great story of Inanna. As I move forward, here's the day of the solar eclipse, but in the morning, Venus still here in Aquarius. Yeah, the moon now having entered Pisces, so it can find its way to the sun. And Mercury moving along, So let's stick with Venus. I'll move another day. Here's Wednesday, Mercury's day, March 9th. She's just cruising along in Aquarius, as you can see. March 10th, Thursday, Jupiter's day. And here's March 11th, a week from today, 3/11, Venus's day, Friday. And she's just, at the last degree of Aquarius. By that evening, she's moving on and on. I'll cruise through the hours because I'm very interested to see the moment when Venus ingresses Pisces. So this is March 12th by this point, at least on the West Coast. Saturn's day, Saturday. And Venus is leaving Saturn's sign of Aquarius and entering Jupiter's sign of Pisces. But Pisces, again, is where Venus, in the old ways, was said to be exalted. This goddess of love, bringing the universal love, bringing the agape project online. And we have this intense Pisces party, planet party, this stellium it's called, going on, the Sun and Chiron, the South Lunar Node, Ceres, Mercury with Neptune at that point, and Venus joins in. So we're really talking about Pisces project. I love that when Venus ingresses Pisces, the moon at that point will have ingressed Taurus. Okay, Taurus being one of the signs that traditionally was ruled by Venus. So we see a lot of these themes. They're in a really beautiful alignment. This is called a sextile, a great exchange of planetary energies. Vesta, the keeper of the sacred flame, priestess, also in Taurus, and almost a perfect sextile to Venus here. So what does that mean? We're talking about what is sacred about Taurus. What is sacred about intimacy as an art form, sensuality, embodied experience, living more of a simple way, what sustains us, what feeds us, our abundance, yeah? And so this is a really beautiful time for Venus. The day before, on Venus's day, Friday, we will see, I'll just cruise back some hours, the moon will ingress Taurus on Venus's day, on Friday, about right there, around noon, and then find its way to this exact alignment with Vesta, yeah. And shortly after midnight for West Coasters, Venus then ingresses Pisces and finds this kind of perfect sextile to Vesta. And so this exchange between the Taurus energy and the Pisces energy is really interesting. Pisces, the last on the wheel of life, this transcendence, this ascension, but also in the waters, in the way of the heart. And the heart is in the body. And Taurus, in so many ways, is the body. Yeah, I really love this date for this current moonth, in this current part of Venus's path. So we cruise forward through today's Sunday, March 13th, and you can just honor Venus moving along in the signs. So one thing I will say here is that as she does, especially, let's see, here we go. March 14th, Monday, and even March 15th, Tuesday, Mars's day, she's in a really strong square aspect to Mars. Let me take away some of this astro clutter and we'll just look at that. It's a very strong square. The squares tend to be kind of Saturnian, conflict for resolution, tension and release between the feminine Venus and the masculine Mars, and they're both in these very spiritual signs, Sagittarius, the seeker, Pisces, the mystic, the healer. So how does that tension come in? That's a really interesting part of this study, I think, and knowing that Mars is cohabiting with Saturn and Sagittarius. They're what's called overcoming Venus. They rise before she does. She's on the square, it's called. They're casting rays onto her, but she's casting them back as well. And she gets support because she's in Jupiter's sign, and Jupiter's here in Virgo, overcoming Saturn while Saturn's living in Pluto in Jupiter's house. So this, I should say, a lot of what I speak is coming from the shamanic astrology mystery school. This is not. Shamanic astrology doesn't do rulerships. I'm finding from my own astrological experience at this point and study that these traditional rulerships and modern rulerships actually bring a lot of information to me. It can be kind of mathematical, and I'm a math geek, so probably that's part of it. I think some of it's totally trapped in like old astrology and fatalistic astrology. I mean, even the word of rulership can be so patriarchal. This is one of the reasons why shamanic astrology has released itself from that, from the idea that planets do better in some signs than they do in others. They're really wounded in some signs. This is kind of old astrology thought. And I try not to get locked down in that baggage and yet still honor some of these old ways. And I'm trying to find, make space for them to recreate themselves, these old rules in ways that I can more beautifully experience them. And I think, for me in my personal experience, this is a bit of like Saturn's gift in Sagittarius. It's like, all right, yeah, release yourself from the old, like, false rules of spirit. But in a sense, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, What is the beauty of that? What works for you in that? And then rewriting those rules, chiseling our own commandments to live by them, yeah? So this part of Venus's path, moving through the root chakra gate, I love in this giraffe card some of the things that were read here of just like, well, we can't look into the future when we are just totally locked down by the urgency of culture. And this is kind of root chakra stuff, right? We are talking about releasing ourselves from our fears. We're releasing false rules. We're really releasing anything that keeps us from grounding into our truth, into a place of safety, where we know we are at the fireside and it is warm and keeping us safe, and grounded. And so these are some of the themes for this moonth of Venus's descent through the place of the root chakra. What are our fears? What were we told? I was just speaking to a really wonderful woman last night in a reading, and she was stoked to get back into some experience of fellowship in a church. She had that when she was young. She left it because she loves a woman. She's married to a woman. Yeah, and so she had to release herself from some of the ideas that is sinful, obviously. But she missed some of the beauty in that experience of fellowship and song and this kind of thing. So, as it was really interesting with her own personal timings, of course. It's the thing about astrology, but Saturn's in Sag, and it's like, hey, what about some of the foundations of spirituality and this kind of thing? And she found herself back in the church, and it was awesome, and the people were great, and the music was great, and it's like, well, what do you think about, homosexuality? And I'm married to a woman. It's like, oh, well, that's a sin, and you'll go to hell. So it's like, see you later. You know what I mean? So, but how do we release ourselves from that false, that's a great example. That is nonsense. We know that is nonsense. Not all of us, but all of us that are watching this astrobabble from Gemini Brett, yeah? But what about that kind of foundation of fellowship and spirituality? That idea that hopefully a church could be. How can we release the nonsense but keep that energy of fellowship and this kind of thing, How can we make in a way, I guess, our own churches? And so church has all of this baggage and this wounding, religion. These are tough words for us now, aren't they? And so we'll say spirituality. But let's do a little SAT stuff here, right? Spirituality is to religion as blank is to church. What is that thing? As we come together in our spirituality that releases ourselves from maybe some of the false religiosity of churches of the past, I think the word is fellowship. But I wonder what it is for you. And I wonder how we are called in releasing the false structures, clearing the root chakra, and releasing the false fears. I mean, think about that fear when a young person who is attracted to other people of the same sex and has alignment to the spirituality taught in their church is then told that their personal attractions means that they will go to hell. That is ridiculous, yeah? And that's a really strong example for us to get into now. And when I'm talking about releasing Pisces themes of this whole age of Pisces with this total solar eclipse, I mean, think about missionaries. Think about this idea of saving heathens by like bringing them God, but bringing them what? Disease, killing a bunch of people, taking their entire spiritual connection, the way they've done that forever from them. These are the kinds of things we're talking about healing. What does that bring in for you, right? What were you told that you love is sinful, Whether that was from church or from school or from culture or whatever. This is really strongly alive in this conversation that's going down at this time. I'll bring in some of the other key players in this thing. Yeah, when we're honoring these mutable signs, the signs that shamanic astrology considers to be service to spirit. And the T-squares can be pretty nuts, and I want to say, look, it's opening to Gemini, where we don't see much. The moon will travel through there, of course, for the first quarter moon, it aligns in Gemini. But it's also saying, like, hey, in all this crazy release and wounding, there is a beauty in remembering this is a game, and remembering to be playful, and remembering imagination is one of the great gifts to be conscious co-creators. Yeah, so as we're releasing some of the tension, and some of the old rules and this kind of thing, of course, in this month, we're kind of being asked to access our inner child. It's been really strong for me personally in this last month, in this sacral chakra month ascent. I've kind of been asked to look into and personally heal some of the wounds of like circumcision, And what is it that a mother has like a child taken away from her in some weird room to be mutilated in this way by some guy in a mask or whatever? It's really dark, and feminine circumcision that's happening around the globe still. Your first blood as a woman, was that treated as a gift and really were you honored in ceremony for that great rite of passage? Or is it like, hey, here's a tampon, go hide that thing, that whole curse that we're releasing ourselves from, seeing that gift and seeing that great power and seeing that magic as some curse. It's been nonsense, and all the rules and the cultural structures and these kinds of things that bring us into a place of fear rather than love. This is our spiritual guidance by Venus in the descent this month. And she's in some really, really, really strong alignments in that regard. So part of this, this square between Venus and Mars, we're also looking at some of the tensions between the feminine and the masculine principles. This kind of time of seeming battle between the yang that we've been born into, so we can come clear that, and this, of course, is part of this path. So as Venus moves forward through the day, she'll make this exact alignment with Neptune. It looks like sometime around the afternoon of March 20th on a Sunday. And Neptune really carrying these Piscean energies of universal love, agape, but also the suffering, the victim, the martyrdom, healing. Well, does it really heal others if we just take their wounds on from them? This is something that I feel we're really being called to release. Yeah, heal yourself. Yeah. And we can come together in fellowship of self-healing. That seems to be the most powerful. Pisces, Neptune, both dealing with belief, can sometimes fall into the ways of delusion, illusions, and therefore confusion. So confusion with fusion, bringing it back together. So maybe some of these themes are addressed, and you can see when Venus finds her way to Neptune, she's really starting to enter in this very strong alignment with Jupiter and Saturn as well. That's like even more alive when she finds herself to Chiron and Ceres some days later. Before she gets there, around here on March 25th, Venus's day, and clear some of these things out of here. But just check out this alignment. By this point, she's past Neptune. Yeah, she had that dance. You know, what are the delusions of my fears? Because this is all root chakra stuff. This is all a Leo Venus cycle. What are the delusions of my fears that would keep me from confidently creating, right? So Neptune will be a guide in this way. Maybe kind of a confusing guide in this way. Sometimes that's the truth. But confusion, bringing it back together. You know, entering the fog to find that beacon of light. Yeah? And then blasting the fog away. Really having clarity. Really having foresight. So at this point, Venus now comes into this very strong alignment with Saturn and Jupiter on her day, March 25th. This is profound, and the square to Saturn can feel pretty tough. I think that's actually a great gift for us this month, that Venus will, in this clearing of the root chakra, get to experience a Saturnian aspect, a square aspect with Saturn himself, who for me, once and again, is like root chakra energy. What are the fears, and specifically, what are the fears that came in from like spiritual belief systems in general, that would just keep me from loving all and loving the world? And how even can we love those fears? Can we love the systems that sent us into that place? Can we love the cage and honor it as a teacher to release ourselves from it through this great power of love? Yeah, and this alignment to Jupiter, so strong in Pisces Virgo. You know, what is that about? There's almost like, I am but a single cell of the uni-being, and paraphrase Gurdjieffian speak, you know, I'm just one of the many that is spirit. And Virgo on the other side, and teacher, Jupiter, is like, oh, come into your independent connection to spirit. You know, in ways she's saying, you know, I'm part of God or goddess, and he's saying, well, God is in you, goddess is in you, access that. And that access and that ceremonial connection to the earth, you know, and to the priestess path, this is really going to help you dissolve some of the false belief systems and rewrite your rules so that you will be rooted and have a foundation in a higher vision and a spirituality. Saturn will be hanging out in Sagittarius for this entire Venus cycle. And it's a very important part of this quest. I'm honored, or want to see what's up with the priestess asteroid Vesta at this time. And it's pretty cool to see that there's this really strong sextile with Neptune, and a pretty strong one to Venus as well. There's something about the priestess nature, the sacredness of Taurus, that's alive in this conversation. And we could even say sacred sexuality. You know, the idea that the virgin priestesses, you know, often associated with Virgo, were buried alive for breaking an oath of chastity. That's nonsense. Before then, one of the rites of the virgin was sacred sexuality. And I think that's alive in our conversation now. Because again, just the many different things that religiosity, that strong belief systems have kind of conquered to take over and to put us into false structure. This is so much of what we're releasing. And some of that false structure, and I love that this came in the giraffe card, is like the urgency of life, the to-do list, the so many things, right? And so we can't tend to our own peace, to our own balance, to stopping to smell the roses, you know, to engage with our heart, to engage with our senses. And that, a lot of that is really alive here as well. All right, I'm going to bring in the crew again. And we'll just bring Venus further through this path. Certainly want to see Chiron and Ceres. Because there's this day, we kind of stopped there a little bit ago, where she's just in this cloth and surrounded by Chiron, sacred healing, you know, not through running away, but from really diving into it, and Ceres, like divine mother. So I kind of love these days, March 30th, March 31st, which is the date of the third quarter moon. The moon at this point, again, like right back to meet Pluto. And Pluto, or Persephone, such a great guide. It's kind of some of the Inanna energy bringing us down into the underworld, going gladly, going gracefully, you know, I think, again, I said this, I think, last month or maybe 2 months ago, this idea of allowance rather than surrender. Because this is a place of Leo quest, right? Of creative, confident creation. So let's confidently descend. We don't need to be yanked down there. And I feel that Persephone chose to go, that she was not abducted and taken. There's this thing that's happening now that's really beautiful. I mean, it's even stronger at the time of the Pisces eclipse, which is a very strong trine, a fire trine from Saturn in Sagittarius to Uranus in Aries. At this point, March 31st, here's Mercury and Eris are all here. Eris, the goddess of discord. Mercury bringing his consciousness to this. Uranus, the planet of revolution. So again, like, taking back our true warrior spirit, but I think a warrior of love. You know, winning a fight by not fighting. And when I see such a strong trine from Aries to Sagittarius, two of the fire signs, I want to see the third fire sign, right? Because it completes what's called the grand fire trine, the equilateral triangle. I happen to have a tetrahedron right here for the Platonic system. This is the element of fire. So the missing piece of Leo, well, it's not missing because that's where Venus began her quest. In fact, her heliacal rise, when she first showed herself as morning star in this current cycle, was right in the degrees of Leo that complete the grand fire trine. So Aries for me is this spark, you know, the science of the fire. It just fires, starting things, going into it, putting all of our energy in it, you know, combustion and self, you know, really taking back our spark in this way. Sag, to me, is the smoke that rises from the fire, travels far and wide, finding its own path to the heavens. Well, how can we have smoke without fire? Yeah, and the roaring flames, this is Leo. So Venus, in her own beautiful way, is just showing that where she started this quest completes this, you know. And when the fires are roaring and bright, the smoke rises, it carries new sparks to keep the whole scene going again, you know. I should be pointing about here instead. Anyway, there's something about fire and the dance of fire and water. You know, Venus spending most of this month in Pisces. And of course the earth, you know, root chakra stuff, fears, all of this. So I could go on and on and on through the song. I think we will just take Venus through the rest of her path. She will ingress Aries and really enter the fire shortly before the moon finds her again, which is in the AM hours of April 6th on Wednesday, Mercury's day. This might be visible. She's getting really close at this point. She's 17 degrees away, so it should be visible. In a sense, we'll have an 8th gate, yeah, which is not in the Inanna story, and I'll talk about that next month. But I think it's a very beautiful thing, and 8 is a very sacred number to Venus. 8 years on Earth for Venus to make her full 5-pointed star in relationship to the Earth and Sun. And 8, that infinity and the number of balance. Yeah, there's a lot of Libra in that. So I like that we get 8 gates on the way down in the cycle. We'll get 8 on the way up too. And we'll address Aries Venus being embraced by the crescent morning moon when that time comes around. For now, let us tend to the release of false structures, of false fears. You know, and I don't want to say that. Fear, people say this, right? Fear is false emotions appearing real. It's kind of a fun acronym. I think fear is totally true. You know, your truth is your truth. That is part of this Leo quest. You are the artist. You are painting your life's canvas. So if you're totally afraid of something, that's not false. It's very true. It might be a cage, but it's a true cage for you to find true freedom, you know? And I think honoring our fears as teachers, not just saying like, oh, well, this is a product of the way I was abused when I was a child, this is a product of the church or the classroom or whatever. That's cool. We should have that recognition. That really helps seed consciousness. But then getting out of the victim mode, releasing this was done to me, transmuting it to see how sometimes our greatest growth comes from that abuse, comes from that lockdown, yeah, comes from the fake rules. And as we have that transmutation, no longer is it this was done by them to me. This was done by them for me. And then we begin to access kind of a higher space. And this is kind of the Aquarian Pisces thing that Venus is taking us through now. Oh, I did this for me through this mask of spirit that is this other person. Yeah. And there's so much healing in that. There's so much acceptance in honoring that pain instead of some torture and some cage as a teacher, and therefore the freedom from it. So I think, this moonth we're really being asked to look at those false rules. And it's not to say that it's wrong, to look at people and be like, yo, that one, that's where this first came in. That's why I've been repeating this pattern my whole life. But instead of saying, this is why I'm bad, this is why they were bad, if we can actually bring some love to it and say, this is what helped me wake up. This is what helps me be good, be me, be real. So then why would a fear be false? A fear is so true. I found myself saying this more than once this week, and some people say that coal, like the highest state of coal is the diamond, refined, I would say the highest state of coal is coal. It's meant to be coal, and it's cool. Like, coal's kind of awesome. And diamonds can be diamonds. Sure, they come from the same carbon, whatever. But can we honor our darkness? Can we honor our shadow? Can we honor our painful past? Can we honor the things that were done to us and the things we've done to others and really find forgiveness? And this was done for me, and hopefully they can see that I did this for them in some crazy, weird, higher place, spiritual way. I don't even have to know how it all works. I just honor that it does, And that really can bring us more into a universal place of love. Alright, so finally, just one image from the last time I found myself on the Big Island. Because the Big Island of Hawaii is said to be the Root Chakra Island. A profound place of crazy shamanic shakeup and healing. If you've not found yourself there, or if you've not found yourself there traveling instead of just on vacation, highly recommended on that Big Island. Pele's place, on Mauna Loa, where the fire is so active. And that red, bright flame, and she's doing her thing right now, so I'm excited to have, and a little scared to have, the opportunity to go connect to that strength. And on Hawaii, there's Poliahu, the snow goddess, and Pele, the fire goddess. And it's said that they're rivals and they do battles with one another. I mean, for me, they're both here to assist the clearing, the healing. And that's what this Venus cycle is about. Releasing with the foresight to look ahead, to know as far as we allow ourselves to go into the pain, into the fear, and into the darkness, we will also find that same ascent into the light, into the bliss, into the beauty, into the love. So I would like to honor my shadows and my fears and the false systems, not as false, but as my truth. But to know that truth in my experience does not have to be eternal. I am the artist of my own life's canvas. I can burn away the old restrictions and align myself to what I choose. Yeah? So for me, in this descent path, in so many ways, it's like the shadow is the spirit guide. When I stop saying, oh, this is this thing that attacked me or possessed me or that made me run away, on some soul escape because of the abuse, and say, wait a second, teacher, help me see the unseen, And in that place, when I then understand that that is not them, it is me, yeah, and I can embrace and love that shadow, I will bring it back to the light. So may my shadow be a guide for my descent. And may my evolving consciousness be a guide for the ascent of the shadow back to the light. So that I don't hide from all of me anymore, but honor it all. and am free to express it. Because when we suppress ourselves, we then hide ourselves in the underworld, in the shadow, and we serve it to control us. When we take it back, we express it to serve us. We can control it to serve us, yeah. So this is this is a beautiful word to end with, control. How have the false structures, the false rules, controlled you in your life? And how have they been great teachers of the beautiful essence of control, which is a wonderful word and a wonderful world if we use it consciously, not to control others, yeah, but to control the direction of the light that we shine from us into this beautiful painting of the Earth game. And you are one of the most beautiful colors on the canvas. Thank you so much for watching and for dancing along with Venus in this wonderful path. We descend and descend, and later we will ascend and ascend and ascend and ascend. Look forward to that time and see that highest light, and know that the further you allow yourself to go into the darkness, the brighter the light on the other side of the tunnel. This is your friendly astronaut, Gemini Brett, signing off. I will see you in space. Let's take this out with a cup of purple earth.